All right, here we go. Integumentary system. Nels, would you mind? On the counter by my office, there's a couple of stacks of papers, and one of them is the study guide for this. Would you mind grabbing it for me? Thank you. So, we are diving into Chapter 6, Unit 5. Nels is grabbing it right now for us. It's on Schoology, as well as the notes for this chapter are up on Schoology as well. I applaud you, by the way, because in my humble opinion, the first 4 units of this that's boring, in my humble opinion. Unless you really like mitosis, which most of us don't. It's not the most exciting thing. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. But now we start getting into at least what I think is the good stuff. But what's important is you have to understand all the other stuff in order to be able to understand this. Does that make sense? Because systems are simply made up of different organs. Organs are made up of different tissues. Tissues are made up of different kinds of macromolecules. Those macromolecules are made up of other... You see the point, right? It just all continues to go back to where we started from at the very beginning. Yep. So, again, organs are simply body structures composed of 2 or more tissues, and the main organ of the integumentary system is what? The skin. And again, there's lots of other things that are involved, but the skin is the main piece. So we start with that, and then this presentation pauses and says, hey, don't forget about the membranes. So I'm going to mention them to you. There were 5 different types that were listed in what you did. You may recognize, we'll talk about a couple of them. There was one category overall that the serous membranes fell into, right? Those were the epithelium membranes. There was serous, there was mucus, and there was cutaneous, right? These 3 different types all fell under that one category. So the serous membranes are the membranes that line the inside of the body. Something that's not open to the outside. So that would be like the lining around your abdomen. Like if you were to slice open your stomach, you would see that inside layer is that serous membrane. Sir?
Is there a receipt up on Schoology?
It is, yeah.
Oh, the bottom folder.
Sorry, I keep moving it up, but Schoology takes like 15 times of me moving it up before it actually stays there. It's the stupidest thing. So yep, it's there. Yep. And again, the key point for those serous membranes is lubrication. Frankly, almost all these membranes are about lubrication. You'll see that as we go along. Mucous membranes, these are guys that are open to the outside. So when you hear mucus, where do you think? Correct, right, nose, right. But the mouth inside is mucus. Yeah, we just call it saliva. Okay, same kind of stuff. What other parts of you are open to the outside? Ears, sure, there's a special kind of mucus there. It's wax, right? But it has a special name to it. Sebum is what we call it. No, sorry, that's the oil. I can't remember what it's called now. She'll get it for us. What else is open? Your reproductive organs, right? The anus, the vagina, the urethra. Yeah, these places are also lined with mucus. You're like, wait, what? Like my nose? No. It's specialized. It's different, but it's a mucous membrane. Are you with me? And its main goal is to keep bad things out. There is lubrication that happens there, but it helps to collect and trap bad things that you are trying to get in and expel them out. And again, we'll talk way more details here. The next one is the cutaneous membrane is just basically the skin, which we'll spend the remainder of this unit talking about. The other membrane was the synovial membrane. And these are the membranes that are surrounding a joint. And when we talk about the different, in the skeletal system, we'll talk about those actual membranes a little bit. Okay? Are you with me? And again, in the past, I had never paid much attention to the membranes. The folks at WAU were very interested for you to know them. So here they are. Okay? Any questions there? Yes, ma'am.
The cutaneous
That is just simply the skin. It's just another term for the skin. And the epithelial membranes are just all the other three aside from synovial. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Synovial's not epithelial.
It is not, right. It's connective tissue mostly. Yeah. Yep. It is not in the connective tissue. It's a membrane, right? But it's made up of different connective tissues. Yeah, it's much harder, much thicker. If any of you are if you're meat eaters, and if you get like some sort of chicken that you have a joint in it, and there's like that thick tissue that kind of is around the bone, that kind of is holding the two bones together, that's the synovial membrane. The joint capsule is another word we call it. Yeah. Okay. I want you to imagine for a moment that you are a coat designer, right? And you want to design a coat almost as nice as the one I'm wearing now, right? But you want this coat to have these very special properties. You want this coat, when you get warm, it cools you off. When you get cold, it warms you up. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? You would have a coat that actually gives you differing layers of protection. So like when it's raining, it's waterproof, right? When the sun is blasting down, it'll give you a little shade, right? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah. What if you even had a coat that if you were to catch it on something, you know how that happens, and it tears, and what if it like healed itself? You could make some serious buck with that, right? If you had a coat that did all of these things. But what if I tell you you do? You just put clothes over top of it. Right? Your skin does all of those things. Right? It moderates your temperature. It protects you from things getting in, like organisms and little bugs and microbes, right? It heals itself, which is amazing. It's one of those things that, again, as a scientist who believes in God, it's one of those things that I'm like, how could you not believe in God? As you see how your body heals itself in a way that's just amazing. We'll talk more about this. Okay? What else does it do? And there's a ton of things it does. Again, the key word is homeostasis. It's trying to maintain homeostasis. Temperature regulation, protection, retardation of water loss, keeping the water in, right? Sensory organs, right? So that I can actually feel, oh, this is a book bag, and this is a computer, and this is a will, right? I have sensory. Synthesizing. Did you realize it actually creates certain chemicals, certain vitamins that you need, right? Your skin does this. And of course, it gets rid of waste. It puts some things out as we sweat. So we're going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about the actual skin layers and what's involved and what the functions are. This is a diagram you do need to know. This is over on page 129, and that is a diagram you will see again on your summative assessment, perhaps even on your final. I'm talking about the right side one. The left side one. The right side one is just an actual microscopic look at what it looks like. The other one is a diagram that shows it a bit more clearer. You do, yes, ma'am. Yep. And again, we'll talk about all of them. So we can start off that the skin is composed of 3 layers. What are the 3? Epidermis, dermis, and the subcutaneous tissue or subcutaneous layer. Okay? Which is the most superficial? Epidermis. Which is the most deep? The subcutaneous. Okay? And then, of course, the dermis is in the middle. Which is the thickest? The dermis. Most of your skin is dermis. There's a tiny little layer of epidermis on the top, and then a slightly thicker, larger layer of subcutaneous tissue on the bottom. There is no direct line that separates the subcutaneous from the dermis. They just kind of blend together. There is a very clear distinction between the dermis and the epidermis. There's a basement membrane that kind of rolls right between those two that kind of separates the two of them. Basement just meaning the bottom, right? The bottom membrane of the dermis. Yes? Oh, the epidermis. Yeah, that's kind of just a pore, like an opening. Yeah. Sir?
Is the yellow fat?
Yeah. Adipose cells. Yep, adipose tissue is fat. Yep.
For the study guide,
Mm-hmm.
with the layers of the subcutaneous layer, what exactly do you want us to know for that? Like what they're made of, what they do, or what?
You should be able to identify them. You should be able to talk about the different structures that are in them. And again, we're going to go through all those pieces. Yep, definitely. Where is most of the action happening in your skin? The dermis is where most of the pieces are, right? Cool. All right, let's talk about the epidermis first. Epidermis is made of mostly what kind of tissue? Stratified, squamous, epithelium. Can anybody tell me why? Why not just have it simple, squamous epithelium? Squamous means scale. If you looked at that and you read your textbook, it talked about it's basically squished, right? So it looks like a little scale, like a fish scale. And stratified means what? Layers, right? Lots of layers. Okay, so why put stratified squamous epithelium as the outside part of your skin? Okay, so shedding, but that's just kind of gross, right? That's like just dandruff and dust, and you realize dust is mostly your skin, right? It's true. It's kind of gross, but it's true. In your house, I mean. Perhaps here too. But why do we need these stratified layers? Protection. Thank you, Don. I appreciate you raising your hand. Yeah, protection, right? Because we want to have, because again, you're grabbing onto things, things are grabbing onto your skin, and it takes abrasions, right? It takes abuse. We want to have layers that can protect the underlying stuff. When you were a kid, did you ever take a pin and like just put it in your skin, just the very top part? And you can and it doesn't hurt at all, right? As long as you don't go too deep, right? So, you all know what I'm talking about, right? You all did that? So what does that tell you about the epidermis? There's layers, and there's some thickness to it, right? They're protected. Did that hurt when you did it? Again, as long as you don't go too deep. It didn't hurt. Did it bleed? No. So friends, there are no blood vessels in the epidermis. Did you realize that? Have you ever gotten like a little tiny paper cut? I'm not talking about the ones that hurt and bleed. I'm talking about just a little tiny something, and it doesn't bleed at all, and it doesn't even hurt. It's just like a little flap. That's because all you did was get the epidermis. Sir?
What does the skin do, like if you have like a callus?
So callus is just simply because the skin responds just like anything else in your body, and we'll talk more about this principle, that whenever stress is applied to a tissue, it produces more tissue. So a callus is just where something has been rubbing against your skin, and your skin produces more skin to help protect that area.
So it's just denser.
It's just denser. Like for example, I wear my ring pretty well consistently on whatever I do, and I have a callus that's right where my ring pinches on my palm, because anytime I grip something, whether it's a golf club or whether it's a whatever, it's pinching that ring right against the skin, and so it builds up extra skin there to help protect that, which is all a callus is. If I lift weights a good bit, if I'm using dumbbells or barbells, it gets bigger, right? If I go a couple of weeks without doing it, that callus will shed off, and it's back to normal. Those of you who play the guitar, right? You get calluses on the ends of your fingers from doing that. If I don't play the guitar for a while, I lose my calluses and it hurts. So you got to keep playing, right? You got to make sure you keep those calluses. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But mine don't go away.
Or because you're just cool, I guess. If you're using it a lot, that's what it is. If you continually are putting the pressure there, they'll stick around.
Like if I get it in the summer and then don't get anything
Right.
in the summer again.
Yes. Yes.
It should be by summer.
Again, depending. Maybe you just had them long enough, they'll stick around forever. Okay, let's talk about these layers of the epidermis. Stay with me. The epidermis layers, the bottom layer is called the stratum basale. You'll see all of these are called stratum. Stratum just means layers, right? Think stratified, right? So stratum basale, basale meaning base, the bottom, right? So that's where the actual cells that are alive in your epidermis are. That's where the cells are actually dividing. Why? Because the blood vessels from the dermis come right up to the top there, so that blood is sending the nutrients up into that bottom layer. Does that make sense? But further up, there's no blood vessels, so it can't get nutrients. So literally, the skin that you see on the outside is dead cells. It's dead cells. Here's kind of a picture showing that these guys down here are the ones that are actually dividing. And as they divide, they push the old cells up. And they keep pushing them up and keep pushing them up. They divide, they push up, divide, push up. And so soon enough, these guys up here are totally flattened out and really have no life in them at all. They're dead cells. And eventually they slough off. Does that make sense? All right. Back to this picture here. As we move up the layers, and again, where am I at in your textbook? 130. Thank you. The stratum basale, as I move superficial, you have the stratum spinosum. Right? I can't hardly read it because it's so small on my picture up there. My apologies. Stratum spinosum, and you see that's that big thick layer, right? Then you have the stratum granulosum. The stratum lucidium, that's only present in places like the palms and the bottoms of your feet, the plantar surfaces. That's like a thick layer. And then the most superficial layer is the stratum corneum. And really, these guys at the very top, they're almost just more keratinized, more just proteinized than the ones on the bottom. Because we want that to be your layer that's protecting. Keratin is a protein that kind of, as the cells lose its water and lose its nutrients and start to die, these proteins, keratin is more what takes over. Does that make sense? Yes, ma'am.
So that's the stratum basale and then all the way to lucidum is from the bottom.
Right, corneum is the very top. The lucidum is right beneath, between granulosum and corneum, but just in the thicker places, like your palms, the bottoms of your feet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Corneum is the very top one. The lucidum is the one that's only present a couple of places. Okay? And again, the key point for that epidermis is protection. We're keeping things out. Yes, ma'am?
So for the other, so for the 5 layers of epidermis,
Mm-hmm.
you just want to see like the names?
Right, you should certainly know them superficial to deep or deep to superficial. If there are something interesting about them, know that. Again, stratum basale is where the actual division is taking place. The stratum corneum is mostly keratinized. The stratum lucidum only is on the palms and the bottoms. Those kind of pieces.
What do you mean keratin?
Keratin is a protein that kind of makes it thicker, makes it stronger. So, in your epidermis, you have these things called melanocytes. And the melanocytes produce what? Melanin. And what does melanin do? It gives you color, right? So really, the only difference in skin between Favor and myself is that she has more melanocytes that are actively producing melanin in a larger quantity. Actually, we have about the same number of melanocytes. But my melanocytes don't produce nearly as much as hers do. My son's produces even less. He's like a white ghost. Right? He likes that. It's good. It works. He takes after his mother. So are you with me? Here's the melanocyte right here. And this guy's producing that melanin. That was recorded for everybody to hear, right? Isn't that exciting? Good. He won't listen. Sorry. And then so you see how that melanocyte has those little tentacles that like reach up into the epidermis, like an octopus. Can you see them? And so those are, again, releasing those little, tiny little dots. Those are the melanin, and that's what colors the skin. And I'll get your question in a second. Why? Why do we have these melanocytes? Yes, ma'am. It is. What part of the sun in particular? The UV rays, right? And as and this happens to everybody, as you're in the sun, those UV rays hit our skin, we start producing more melanin, right? So if you see me in May, and then you see me again in August, I will look different, I hope. Because I've been out in the sun, my skin will be darker, right? Because my skin is trying to protect itself from these damaging UV rays by giving more melanin, by producing more melanin. Yes, ma'am?
So there are like billions of melanocytes and stuff.
There are. Absolutely.
So your hair gets darker if you got in the sun?
My hair, no, my face.
Oh, I thought you said...
No, it will, the keratin here will actually get lighter. Yeah. Yes, you're right.
Which layer did you say was keratin?
The very top part. Yeah, the stratum corneum.
I thought lucidum was the top one.
No, lucidum is in between corneum and granulosum.
And that's sort of present
In the palms and the bottoms. Yep.
I was told that the reason that your skin gets darker from the sun is to protect your DNA so that there isn't any
Sure, because UV rays are harmful, right? One of the ways you can get cancer, we'll talk about skin cancer later on in this unit, is from these UV rays. You're exactly right. So it has altered the DNA in a way that the cells start reproducing in ways they're not supposed to. So sure. Yeah, it sounds a little science fiction-y, but no, it's true. It's true. I say this just because I know some people have this question. Do folks with very dark skin get burned? They do. It's a little bit more difficult, right? But you can get sunburned. Am I right, those of you with darker skin? Yeah, I mean, you get sunburned, sure. So I've had people say, wait, you're saying me black people get burned? No, yeah, they do. Sure, right, it happens. It's the same skin, right? Same skin. Good. All right. I have to say this. Do you see why it's so foolish that we spend so much time separating people into different nationalities and different colors and different races? DNA-wise, there's no difference. There's no difference, right? So why are we so hung up on that? It bothers me, I'll be honest. There you go. Couldn't go past that without saying it. Talk a little bit more about that skin color piece. So one of the big things that affects your skin color is the amount of time you spend in the sunshine, okay? Ancestrally, folks like me were from much colder, much darker places. So we had to wear more clothes. We spent less time in the sun. We have lighter skin. We're talking about way back in the day, right? Right? The folks, and again, I'm not meaning to keep picking on you, Favor, right? But the folks, Favor's ancestors would have been more out in the sunshine, having more exposure, melanocytes producing more melanin, therefore darker skin. Again, no difference in our DNA. She's not some subhuman person because she looks different. Just different color, right? It's good. The other piece, again, that does matter is genetics. So that amount of melanin that's being produced is codified in your DNA, and you pass that on to your children. And your children pass it on to their children, and their children, and their children, etc. We cool? Certainly those of us who are whiter, our skin color is also affected by the amount of blood flow present. Right? What do we call that when your skin color changes because of blood flow? Blushing. Yeah, you got it. You got it. And again, those of us with very light skin, it's very obvious when we do something we are embarrassed about and we blush. Right? Those of you with darker skin, you have a little more cover. Right? It's good. Good. There you go. Ears are a good place. Yes. All right. Let's talk about the dermis. Let's keep rolling. So the dermis binds to that epidermis. Okay, remember dermis is deeper, epidermis is superficial. And there are these little ridges and what they call the dermal papillae. Which again, that are these guys right here. See kind of the ridges in that picture? Those are the dermal papilla, that's the individual one. Or papillae is plural. So what do those do? Like those actually have a function. Those little ridges and grooves. Anybody have an idea? What do the dermal papillae cause, or what's their function? Those aren't the sweat glands. Those are there in the dermis, but it's not the papillae. Look down at your hands for a moment. Are they nice and smooth? No, I'm not saying you need lotion. I'm saying what do you notice when you look closely at them? The fingerprints, right? The grooves and the ridges. That's because of the dermal papillae. Okay? But why? Why? Just so you can't commit crimes? No. That's a benefit. It's for grip. It's for grip. It allows you to be able to grip something better than if you just had it nice and smooth. Does that make sense? Sir? Or are you just stretching? Okay. Yes, ma'am. They create the ridges and the grooves that give us our fingerprints. Yep. We cool? And again, the dermis is mostly connective tissue. It has collagen in it. It has elastic fibers. It gives it some stretch. The collagen gives it the backbone to make it strong. And it has this gel-like ground substance, kind of like the cytoplasm in the cell. That's what that ground substance is. And then that's really where all the action is, in the dermis. The blood vessels are there. The nerve fibers are there. The hair follicles are there. The sweat glands and sebaceous glands are there. Everything is there in the dermis. The dermis is basically just the holder of the accessory structures. That's what it does. Yes, ma'am. Please. Yep, it's bringing the nutrients up to the epidermis and then also to the structures in the dermis.
Okay.
Yep.
And then for the nerves?
We'll talk more about it, I promise. Yep. We'll talk more about them, but those produce oil. Yep. We'll talk more about it. Yes, ma'am. Sure. Certain part of your bodies have more sweat glands than others, certain areas. And different people have different amounts of sweat glands, certainly. Yeah. I used to always use Mr. Curbs as my example. I don't know if y'all remember Mr. Curbs.
Yeah, I do.
Lots of sweat in his hands. Like that, it's always his thing. He wipes his hands and he shakes your hand. It's fine. And again, most of us don't have many sweat glands here, but for whatever reason, that's how Mr. Curbs rolls, and it's fine. It's fine. It's no... It's life. Yeah, it's life. Good. Let's keep going. The last layer is that subcutaneous layer. Some places call it the hypodermis. Hypo just means under the dermis. And that's mostly loose connective tissue. And there's also that adipose tissue, that fat tissue that is present there. And it's what binds the skin to the underlying organs. So again, the skin that is in my arm, excuse me, is bonded a bit to the muscles, the tissues that surround the muscles, truthfully. And again, there's no sharp boundary between dermis and the subcutaneous layers. Any questions? Again, these are just walking through those 3 layers. Josh is just stretching. All right, stick with me for 5 more minutes here. We're going to keep going, since I've only got you today and tomorrow talking about this, because I'm not here Thursday and Friday. The things you will be doing, don't worry, I have a conference I'm going to. Our next test is a week from Friday, just so you know timing-wise. Okay? This Friday, we can do it this Friday if you want. Oh, okay, no, okay, fine. Josh is like, no, Mr. Ash, no. All right, so let's talk about the nails. He wasn't. I was just teasing him. The nails. What are the point of nails? Nope, not protection, not covering, not to scratch, not better grip. It's fingernail polish. It's that's the purpose of nails. Oh, I'm joking.
I agree.
Sure, some of the ladies would certainly agree. No, you are correct at first. It's well done, Daisy. Or was that Neha? No, it was Daisy, okay. Yes, it is all about protection. Nails are all about protection. Sure, can you use them for scratching and those kind of pieces? Absolutely. Sure, that works great. But the main piece is that they are protecting the ends of your fingers. Why? Because we're clumsy. And we're always putting things and smashing things and dropping things and pinching things. Has anybody ever pinched their finger hard? Ooh, you've ripped the nail off. That's even more impressive. Yeah. Has anybody pinched it so hard that the nail then falls off? Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm talking about like slamming in a door. That's a great way of doing that. Yeah, it hurts. Oh, it hurts. Yes. I've done it twice to this little pinky finger. Yeah. It's not good. Okay, what are nails? Shh. Nails are the same stratified squamous epithelium that's in the skin. But wait, then why isn't all your skin nails? Because it has more of this keratin, more of this protein that makes it harder. Okay? And the nails actually grow from this bottom region called the lanula. That's where the nail is actually dividing and producing new nail cells. So, lanula just means moon, right? Half moon, right? Luna, right? Good. Same root. Roots are important in English, right? Good. So if you were to tear that nail off, which is very painful, it doesn't grow back like as a whole. It starts at the bottom and slowly, very slowly, grows all the way back. If you damage these cells on the bottom, your nail cannot grow back. My mom, for example, just after I was born, she dropped a bowling ball on her foot, on her big toe, and did enough damage to those cells that make her nail that she has no nail on her one toe. Right? Doesn't hurt anymore. That was 40 years ago, but are you with me? Good. All right. Shh. The bell is going to ring. But give me 30 seconds. 1 second. I'm encouraging you, friends. Please do spend some time reading. I know you're working on your book, but do spend some time reading this section. We are going to do the questions that are after each section. If you desire to do that now, that's fine. You will get some time toward the end of the week as well to work on that. Okay? I will see you tomorrow. Adios.